I didn't start a diary till I was almost 40 and a government minister. And I did it for the purpose of recording what I saw for historical reasons. I used to teach economic history, and you become aware that you're very dependent on the materials, particularly those available from the time. There I was with a ringside seat, Margaret Thatcher, everybody else, and I thought, you know, I have to write this down. I should record it. If at some future point I decide to write a memoir of the Thatcher days, history of some kind, I've got my own paperwork. I've got my own opinion, be unique. Plus I should write down how I feel about everything and not go back and change it even if it's wrong later. But inevitably you start writing a diary, you start talking to it as an intimate friend. You start recording how you feel about things that are going on in your private life, your personal life. And diary's a great friend, you know. Never argues with you, never answers back, listens carefully, laughs at your jokes, and never criticises. So that's how the diary got started. Embarrassing to read it back? No, in a way quite moving, particularly reading it back when I was feeling down. I want to say to this young woman that's walked into the room, you know what, kid? Don't beat yourself up. It's not as bad as you think it's going to be. Some of the things you've done will survive and be to your credit, like breast cancer screening, cervical cancer screening, the campaign on AIDS and HIV and gay rights. Some things you will find will have been a total waste of time, like standing for Europe. But I've read the next 2 chapters, I would say to her, and it's going to come all right and you're going to be happy in the end. Some of the media coverage of the diaries has just taken out the negative remarks or the rather acid pen portraits that I've done of people there, and that's a shame because I've been very complimentary about a lot of other people, but the media never interested in anything very positive. What I did slightly consciously try and do was make the pen portraits funny and to the point. I'm a great fan of Peter Brook's Saturday cartoons in the Times, where he turns people into animals and birds and creatures from the zoo, and I'd often have that kind of image, like John Hume as a walrus, or Norman Lamont's mouth, which seemed to move like a fish's does, a lazy fish, that kind of thing. So there I was kind of thinking about a caricature, if you like, a word caricature. When it came to somebody like Ann Widdecombe, who since she's left Parliament has become a national treasure, and I applaud her for it, it's great. But in Parliament she was quite a tough dame, and I sometimes felt was unkind. Some of the campaigns she got involved in, even if they stemmed from her total belief, she attacked them with a kind of aggression that I found unattractive. We were very much on opposite sides in the abortion debate, for example. I have always felt that you cannot force a woman to have a child that she doesn't want, perhaps as a result of rape, perhaps as a result of just of a relationship she didn't want, but a child should be wanted. And I would have preferred to see some compassion coming from the other side. It did from other people, but it never did from Anne. And in that sense, I think we found ourselves on opposite sides of the universe. Do I have any regrets? Oh my, you get to my age and you haven't had any regrets and you haven't lived. That doesn't follow that I'm going to tell you all. I think the main one would be not managing to convince my colleagues during the autumn of 1988 that we had a serious problem of food safety, and that an ordinary everyday food, namely eggs, was poisoning people, giving them food poisoning and in some cases blood poisoning, and landing them in hospital in droves. We were getting reports from the Public Health Laboratory Service of 500 people a week, so ill that samples had to be taken, and having to be treated often for weeks on end with antibiotics. And what the public didn't know was that we were killing somebody every week. I think the point at which I really felt that something had to be done about it, to warn the the consumers, the public, was when a 9-year-old boy died. And to me that was not going to rest on my conscience. But we could not get the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food to take it seriously. You could call that a cover-up if you like, you could call it a bit of a conspiracy between bad farmers and the ministers and officials who should have been keeping them in check. But at least some ministers were on the ball. So I took it upon myself to stand up and tell everybody. And the rest, as they say, is history. But my regret is not that I said it. My regret is that I couldn't persuade my colleagues to take it on board and just say, whoops, we have a problem. Let's get on top of it, let's get it sorted, and a year from then there wouldn't have been a problem. And who knows what might have happened to me. I certainly wouldn't have been writing novels and appearing in Strictly Come Dancing. Or maybe I would.